A year ago, can you believe it? None of this existed. And we've been working really hard over the last couple of months to expand our gardens and get a whole heap of food planted.
Our goal has always been to grow 100% of our fresh produce, and this winter we're doing just that. We had our first frost this morning.
Yeah, everything was looking real sad and some things haven't survived it. Okay, so the garden... Okay, so the gardens have kind of become Kirsty's baby. She's really taken over all the planting, the calendar, the planning, and making sure that everything's in the ground. Now tell us what you mean by 100% of our fresh produce. Are we really truly eating from our own land right now?
Not right now.
But we will be, right?
But we will be. So when you're talking about 100%, we are only growing things that we're going to eat. But I've got probably 100 garlic in the ground,
yep.
Onions, carrots, potatoes, all of your staples I'm growing.
Right, so already a large portion of our fresh produce
yes.
is coming straight out of our land.
Yes.
But the goal this winter with these winter gardens yep. was to get that to 100%.
Get it to 100% in that, like, I've always been able to, you know, grow our own corn, grow our own lettuce, grow our own greens, that sort of thing. But yep. I've never gotten to the point where even the onions and the potatoes and the carrots and the garlic, everything like that, that next level down of staple, especially things that you need to put in like your soup stocks and your broths and that sort of thing. I've never grown that level of food before. So
for reference, we're a family of 4.
Yep.
Your mum, who is also on the property, your mum and dad, have yep. a garden as well.
Yep.
And so we get a little bit of produce from them
yep.
as well. And then we've got some friends with us as well. They're sharing in these gardens as well.
Yep.
And so we're growing probably for about 6 or 7 people, yep. right? I reckon what we should do right now is you can take us on a little tour, because to be honest, I don't even know where half the stuff's planted right now. And I want you to show us some of the kind of key things that you've done to, yep. to plan for and plant out a winter garden that's going to feed 6 or 7 people.
It's pretty exciting that we've got our gardens actually finished to the stage 1 plan, I guess, that we wanted to build to. And I think we worked out it was 130 square meters of growing space. 130?
Might be 150.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. And I don't feel like I'm being efficient yet. It's going to take us a couple of years, especially me, to get into the groove of this. Right here in front of me, they haven't done super well, and I think it was the seeds, but I'm super, 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 super excited. This is a test. These are Brussels sprouts. So I'm growing 12 Brussels sprout plants. These ones are doing the best, but I feel like just because it's hit that real super cold this week, they've just kind of doubled in size. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to freeze Brussels sprouts to be able to eat all year round. In the video we did about planting out our autumn gardens, I talked about a thing that I'm going to try into planting brassicas, alliums and carrots. They can companion plant quite well. So that's what I've actually done. So especially in this garden here, I've got a couple of 100 carrots, I've got 22 garlic, and I've got 10 cabbage. So I think I've done that on 6 or 7 of the beds in this garden. So I've repeated that pattern in various ways and in various combinations. So in some beds it'll be leeks instead of garlic, and in other beds it'll be red onions instead of leeks. In some beds it will be broccoli, in some beds it'll be kale. I've just interplanted those brassica, allium, carrot combination in varying different combinations of that. All throughout our gardens, and not only does it look cool, but I haven't noticed any pest load yet. So fingers crossed that this is going to work out, and that's something that we'll probably be able to really show you a little bit more in another garden update in the future. I gotta go change the sourdough. Hold on.
I'm just super excited about these potatoes. We've grown potatoes before and we're not doing anything different, but the goal is 100% of our own produce. So I've got 1 bed of Dutch creams, I've got another bed of Sebagos, and we've planted enough potato plants that we won't have to buy potatoes for a long time.
What I'm really enjoying is watching the different plants that grow better in the cold thrive when they didn't thrive in the summertime. So this borage has just like self-seeded itself and gone crazy because obviously winter is when it grows best. So I have got this incredible borage everywhere, self-seeding itself, doing awesome things, and the chickens love it. This one's a little bit of a source of contention.
It's a slight disagreement over whether or not it's worth it.
I wanted to know how long we can grow tomatoes for.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to know.
It's worth knowing.
Okay.
They are surprisingly healthy and thriving, and I'm even seeing flowers on them.
I say we continue on with this, even if it doesn't like produce anything, just so that we know how late we can start tomatoes, how long we can grow tomatoes.
Yeah.
Do they last? I mean, the frost got them this morning and they're looking a little sad, so we could potentially protect them.
It's a great thing about having heaps of space. You can't always do this when you're limited on space,
Yeah.
but you can be a little bit experimental to just see how long you can stretch your seasons out for. And so this is a great example.
Good little test. So another thing we wanted to see how long we could stretch out was our pumpkins, and they have been prolific this season. We planted them in springtime, and I'm not sure how many we've got. We're going to count them up for you next, but I think they're at the end now. So what we're going to do today is we're going to pick all of the ones that we've got. They've lined all of the gardens. They've done the job that we wanted them to do, which was to keep all of the grass and all of the external things external. They've done their job. They've done that. So this is going to be a good opportunity to pick them all, clear up everything, and give everything a good trim up before we do it all again in springtime. It's always scary when your plants lose their leaves, but then just have to remember that this is what they're meant to do. So I'm hoping that our fig will actually give us figs next year. But for the meantime, does anybody else feel like this in the winter? Barely hanging in there. So I had never grown celery successfully before, but these two here I planted last winter, and they have given and given and given all summer long. They stayed like productive and healthy. Not only that, but they actually started to kind of grow off the other plants off the side. So I haven't even started celery from seed this year because I've got 1, 2, 3 whole new plants that I transplanted off of these, and they're thriving. So I'm pretty excited about that. And what I've learned about using celery that you grow yourself as opposed to celery that you buy from the store is that you don't need as much because the flavour is so much more intense.
All right, so there are a bunch of jobs and kind of projects that have been on the back burner in order to keep these gardens flourishing and thriving. I've got stuff that you need me to build.
Interesting thing about running a YouTube channel and a homestead is that sometimes I have to wait for the builds to happen when there's a video to put together. So I've got a list for you.
Perfect, because today is our restocking fortnight where we normally go to the city together and kind of restock all of our supplies. So what we've decided to do this week is we're going to divide and conquer. Yep. So Ali's got the day off work and JJ's got the day off work. So Kirsty and Ali are going to go to the city and do all our restocking. While JJ, I presume he's probably still in bed, can help me out at some stage today with this list of projects and builds that you need me to do from the garden. So what do I need to build?
Oh, so snow peas need a trellis, sugar snap peas need a trellis. The chilies that we finally got going at the end of summer, I think I want to save those. We also need the pops off the bananas. Let's take out those sweet potatoes. We also have to take all those pumpkins in. Wonder whether we put some pumpkin soup on for dinner. Yeah,
well, just looking around, there are probably double the amount of pumpkins than I thought we had. So I'm going to grab the wheelbarrow, and that might be the first thing I do is let's count how many pumpkins we've got.
Sounds good.
All right, divide and conquer time. we are ready for the next season of growing things and projects. But before we get too far ahead, there's some projects and upgrades I want to do here in the greenhouse that, to be honest, I've been putting off. And the main reason is because I don't have power here yet. Now, our solar shed is only about 20 meters in that direction. So with a bit of money, time and effort, I could bring mains power over here. It would cost me a bit in cabling and conduit and a few other bits and pieces, but I've got a much easier solution, and it's all thanks to this bad boy right here. I want to thank Bluetti for sponsoring this video. I don't normally say yes to product sponsorships because oftentimes when people want to send you stuff, it's just crap. And I won't promote anything on this channel that I don't genuinely believe in, have bought anyway, or would have bought anyway, and Bluetti are one of those products. Now, it might feel like a bit of overkill because these units here are absolutely huge. I'll tell you about the features in just a moment, but Bluetti have designed a unit, a system that's essentially able to power your whole house. Now, there are other bits and pieces and extras you can get with this, including expansion batteries. So I've got one of those on the way. You might see this featured again in another video, but in this case, we're going to set it up in here as the main power supply for everything we want to do in our greenhouse. Now, I'm not kidding when I say this is an absolute beast of a unit, and here's the two key numbers you want to pay attention to. 3840 watts. That's how much continuous power it can put out at any one time, and in fact, it has a surge power ability that's far beyond that. But 3840 or 3.8 kilowatts of power. To give you an idea, my coffee machine, which is probably the most power hungry device we have on site, is about 1.8, 1.9 kilowatts. So that's almost double that. And then the other number you really want to pay attention to when looking at power stations like this is its storage capacity or total available power for use. And that's this number here, 2764.8 watt hours, or just over 2.7 kilowatt hours worth of battery storage. So it's got a couple of inputs. We've got a main AC input here, and that's how I've been charging it. So basically I've just been taking it to our solar shed where I've got mains power. I've got a plug there. In the peak of the day when I've got heaps of sunlight, and in fact a lot of it's going to waste, I'm topping this one up with that. We've got an AC expansion port, so you can daisy chain these units together. You can put about 3 of them together for about 11 kilowatts total power supply. Then there's an expansion battery slot down here, and there's some DC inputs. Now, what I don't have on me right now, because it just wasn't available at the time, like I said, these are brand new, is the solar cable that I can hook up some solar panels to this and charge it off of solar. And that's exactly what we're going to do out here in the greenhouse. The Apex 300 is designed with energy efficiency in mind. It uses as little as 20 watts of energy in standby or idle mode, meaning it's always ready if you need it in an emergency situation. We're going to be hooking up to 1200 watts of solar panels directly to the unit, but with the optional Solar X 4K unit by Bluetti, it can support a whopping 19.2 kilowatts of solar input, which would charge this unit up to 80% in just 40 minutes. The lithium iron phosphate cells in the Apex 300 have been rated up to 6,000 cycles or 17 years. All right, 4 things that I want to power in here. And in fact, as I'm even talking about these, I'm already thinking of other things that I'd love to power. I've got a little Bluetooth speaker that I use in here all the time. You know, if I want to charge my iPhone while I'm sitting in here. But the 4 things that I want to power in here. Number 1, I use a lot of my power tools in here, and they're cordless power tools, but I want my battery charger sitting in here. So I've got Makita power tools. I want the battery charger in here charging batteries. That's how we're going to do it off of this unit. I've got some lighting that I want to set up in here. We are at the shortest part of the year right now. We're well in the middle of winter, and I want to extend my daylight hours by just putting a few lights over the tables here. That's also going to allow me to work a little bit later, but it's also going to allow me to grow a little bit longer. I want to do some heating in here for our seedlings. So that's a heat mat and a heat plate. We're going to try those things out. I've never grown artificially with heat before, but I want to try both of those systems out. And again, I need power. But the main thing I've been waiting to upgrade on our gardens and in our greenhouse here is my irrigation system. I've got a really good 8-zone irrigation system, and it's mains powered. So we've been using little battery powered irrigation units. They're fine, they've got us through, but I really want to set up multiple zones in our gardens now. So to do that, I need mains power again. So a big thanks to Bluetti for sponsoring this video and sending us the Apex 300. Hey, check them out for yourselves. There's a link down below in the description. But now, let's get back to the gardens. Ideally, I'd want to be doing this at the end of autumn at the latest, so I'm a little bit late to this. These big ones are way too big to bring in now, and hopefully they're established enough to survive the frosts on their own. but these little pups, despite being under the parent plant, probably won't. So it's a good opportunity for me to separate the pups. That gives me some new propagation stock, so I do want to do more banana plants, but it also kind of gives me some backups. So we'll pot these up and we'll keep them in the greenhouse over winter. Come springtime, they'll find their own homes, or if any of the parents don't make it through the winter, these are the replacements. Well, not a bad little haul. Look, I wish I'd kept track of planting dates because I probably would have let them go a little bit longer, but that being said, that frost was really going to knock these plants about, so maybe we wouldn't have got any bigger anyway. I know there's room for improvement because Kirsty's folks' garden is 400 meters in that direction and they were getting ones as big as footballs, so we know we can get them bigger here, but pretty happy for our first batch. All right, confession time. I have stacks and stacks of spare pots in my greenhouse, always have. And every now and then I look at them and think, I probably don't need that many. And then you get to a task like this where you've got to save some plants and you've got to pot them up and you're glad you've got them, but still, I probably don't need that many. What is it for you? What's the one thing in your greenhouse or in your garden shed that you're just hoarding a whole lot of, but you know you could probably get rid of it? So I've got to save these chilies and capsicums. We were kind of late to the party with chili and capsicum over summer. Well, they were. It took a while to get them established. We had all sorts of problems. If you've seen our previous gardening videos, we had salt problems, water problems. Anyway, by the time we finally got some chilies and capsicums established, it was way too late. These guys will do well next year if we can see them through the winter, but they're not going to do well out here, especially with these incoming frosts. So I'm going to get them potted up. We're going to get them in the greenhouse. We'll keep them in there for a few months. We'll bring them back out again in springtime. All right, YouTube video production confession time. It's like 2 days later and it's really freezing cold. So that's why we're in different outfits, but also we had these crazy frosts over the last couple of days.
Wild.
So you know how we were talking about the tomatoes and the little experiment and whether or not they'd survive?
They're gone.
They didn't survive. And my poor banana plants, thank goodness I rescued those pups.
Yes.
Because the mama banana plants, they've all gone brown. I don't know how they're going to go. We will see, but we
are
learning.
Yep.
That's
right, we are learning. A couple of things that I was thinking about when I was doing my drive to town that I wanted to share. One of those things is about just being okay with where you're at, because we're making this video and I'm like, oh, we should be so much further along in our winter planting because we didn't get to our autumn planting because we were too busy trying to finish building our garden beds.
Yeah.
And I look at them and I wish I was further ahead, but I think that people like us who love our veggie gardens always wish we were further ahead than what we are.
Yeah.
So this is maybe my lesson to myself and to you, like, don't beat yourself up too much. If you can't get to it on the ideal times, just do it anyway, and it all works out in the end, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and one little bonus that you've discovered about
Yes.
putting the build of the gardens before putting the planting out of the gardens has been to do with weeds, right?
Yes, because I've spent a lot of hours since we finished building these in
Many
April.
podcasts.
Many podcasts. dealing with the weed load. So when you disturb soil, when you disturb and build a new garden bed, or you aerate your lawn, or you dig a ditch, or whatever it is that you do, you'll probably notice that the weeds kind of come back quite prolifically pretty quickly after you've disturbed that soil. And that was certainly true of the new garden beds that we built. So I was thinking, like, if this is what it's like in autumn and winter, and those weeds came back like hectic, especially in those potato beds, if that's what it's like in autumn, can you imagine what it would be like to build new garden beds ready for spring and then have all of that load in the summer? It would get on top of you pretty quickly. So Kirsty's little life lesson to be grateful for that I could probably pass along to you is, if you're thinking of building new garden beds ready for spring, do it now and let it rest and let all those weeds come up, because they'll come up slower than if they were going to in the summer.
That's right. And it's particularly pronounced because we have determined to use materials from our own landscape. Yes. I know we could have brought in landscaping materials and that would have given us a head start, and that's totally fine. But because we've done that, we have awakened the dormant ancient seed bank beneath the ground and basically introduced that problem into our gardens. But we've done it at the right time, because we've kind of done that first pass of weeding, and now comes springtime when it's hectic anyway, we're not going to be
back.
That's right, we're going to have weed seeds in there still, but we're not going to be battling it as much. Hey, for those of you that follow along on our channel regularly and enjoy our podcast episodes that we've been putting out midweek, you might not know that we have moved them to a new channel. So I'm not sure if I can put the link up here. I might put a QR code or something on the screen here, but I'll definitely put it down in the description below. So if you've been looking for that podcast and wondering where it went, we've moved it to its own channel. Go check out the latest episode where we talk about AI and homesteading and explain kind of why we had to move the podcast to its own channel. But right now,
I'm going back to the fire.
Yeah, because it's
freezing.
freezing.
I hope you're all staying warm. Us Australians who can't handle, us Queenslanders who can't handle weather like this. Stay warm.
And we'll see you next week.